Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Friday Ramblings, and this is a very special 100th episode. Yeah, believe it or not, I have done 99 previous episodes, making this number 100. That is a lot of rambling. Kind of hard to believe, but hey, you can check our handy dandy playlist and binge them all, folks. So, instead of just doing a standard little happy fun time thing, I thought for our 100th episode we would just kind of go through a quick look back at some of my personal most memorable ramblings. You know, the episodes that I think were particularly good for me and hopefully enjoyable for you. So we're going to start out with what should be an obvious choice, and that is number 50, Midkemia Memories. And the reason this is kind of an obvious choice is it is actually, as I described in the opening, an older video that ended up, I didn't realize it at the time, but serving as a prototype for the Friday Ramblings as a regular weekly show. It was, a thing where I had just finished reading the last book in the Midkemia series, as in, the author was retiring that, continuity. He was not going to do any more stories set in that world, as opposed to most recent, because, most recent, that's just a thing. But, since that had always been a personal favorite series of mine, as it was the first fantasy novel series that I, really hit hard into, and it just kind of made everything click for me when it came to the fantasy genre. A lot of people talk about, I read Lord of the Rings in high school, or, these days it's I started on Harry Potter when I was 8. And nothing against those series, but Midkemia series from Raymond E. Feist was my personal introduction, where I really, I read it, and then I wanted more, and it's just the world was just right there in my head, and I was excited to get the next book every time the next one came out. So I did a video as a fan to try and just be like, look, people, this is something that's over, and it's kind of an emotional thing for me. So this is, I'm gonna just kind of talk about all the books real quick. So, I ended up posting it as episode 50, which was, mathematically cute, nicely done. And I really wasn't even intending that. I didn't sit there and look ahead and go oh, episode 50 is coming up, I should totally do something. It just kind of came out that way that, I think it was only after I uploaded it that I realized it was, the 50th episode. And even then, that math may be kind of squinky just because I wasn't necessarily producing them in order. It's currently number 50 on the playlist and will most likely stay there, or on YouTube getting really ticked off at me for something obscure in their TOS that I was not aware of when I did the videos, because I do try very hard not to do content that would get anybody mad, which is why we don't show, video clips or game clips or anything like that, any kind of seriously copyrightable content in our videos. Because even though I could probably get away with a few seconds here and there, I would just rather not take the risk of having to have my videos get copyright struck and having to go back and re-edit them, and it's easier to, from the get-go, err on the side of caution. So after that, we go into, we got to go with the first episode, which was the WWE Hall of Fame history lesson. I did this a couple years ago, shortly before the 2020 Hall of Fame, 2019 Hall of Fame, where I went through and did every single inductee up to that point, including, I think, the ones that were announced and confirmed as going to be part of the 2019, which was still a couple weeks away as of the time I recorded the video. But, again, that was something that I wasn't intending to do it as the start of a regular thing. It was something I wanted to do out of excitement for the Hall of Fame and how much I've always enjoyed it every year. And the thing is, I was actually, for episode 100, going to do a update to that video, but when I realized that they hadn't, they didn't do the 2020 Hall of Fame last year, so they're rolled it over to this year, along with some new inductees that will be the official 2021 class, but they haven't announced that full list yet. It was kind of a thing where I was like, there's really not enough meat to this content yet, so I'll do that eventually. There will eventually be another, there will be a Hall of Fame update video, maybe next year. Maybe I'll, if things align right, maybe I can do that for 150. I don't know, 125, some good number. We'll see. But, I definitely do want to do follow-ups. Have like a little mini Hall of Fame playlist after enough years. Because I would love to keep doing this. And I've been a wrestling fan for so long, I really don't see myself aging out of it at this point. So, let's see, what's some other good ones? The Who Owns King Kong, which was another very early one. That was when I really was like, this is something I'm going to do on the regular. I'm going to do constantly. So that was a topic that my partner Jaime and I had talked about before on some of our older podcasts that predated the current YouTube channel, because it is a meaty topic. It is convoluted, and it does get into the nature of trademarks and copyrights, how multi-layered they can be, and how they can be kind of worked around and loopholed. And the fact that it also would play into the subsequent Donkey Kong versus Nintendo lawsuit about a decade or so later really makes it doubly interesting to study as a entertainment-related legal matter. I had done that video because of the recent Skull Island movie, which was an excellent movie. It did a great job of bringing King Kong forward. And soon we will have the King Kong vs. Godzilla movie, which looks like it's probably going to close out that little 4-movie continuity. I don't know, if the movie does super successful, they may try to roll out 1 or 2 more movies. I would be all for it, because so far the other previous 3 movies have been excellent, and I've thoroughly enjoyed them. So I would be all about some more, what do they call them? The Monsterverse movies. But yeah, the Legendary Pictures take on the Godzilla King Kong shared continuities. So, and that's the thing. I haven't really touched on those films much. So maybe after I see King Kong vs. Godzilla, we'll kind of just do like a quadrology wrap-up video, because that's a thing that would be awesome to do. Let's see, we did do some other good ones here. Oh yeah, the Death and Return of Superman video, which covered the trilogy of comic events that DC did in the early 90s, where Superman was killed, imposters showed up, and eventually some of the imposters died. The original Superman returned from the dead. And we ended up with 2 new Superman spin-off heroes in Superboy and Steel, who have gone on to great things since then. You know, that many years ago when Death of Superman first came out, I read it. I got the trade because I was just fascinated by the idea of it. Like, oh my God, they're going to kill Superman. Like, everybody was. It was a huge financial boom for DC. And the middle chapter of that trilogy there with Funeral for a Friend, where they, you know, specifically wrote stories focusing on the fallout of his death. You know, it's not just, oh, he died, so, you know, it's a world without Superman. It's like, specifically, it's, okay, here's how the regular people of Metropolis were taking it. Here's how his teammates in the Justice League were dealing with it. Here's how his family, the people that knew Superman was Clark Kent, were dealing with, you know, not just losing a loved one, but trying to keep people from putting 2 and 2 together that, hey, Superman's dead and this Clark Kent guy's completely disappeared. It was one of the best Fallout stories any comic book has done. Following the death of a major player. You know, there was a wonderful event called Battle for the Cowl, which I did discuss in another video. I think. I did some other Batmans. We'll go back and check on those in a minute. But, you know, and then when Captain America was killed at the end of the first Marvel Civil War event, there was some fallout, but a lot of that was with the identity being taken up, whereas, like, nobody tried to be the new Superman, except the imposters who showed up in the third part, Reign of the Supermen, but really only 2 of them tried to claim they were the one true Superman, like they were the Superman. Steel was a guy who started being a superhero because Superman had saved his life, and with Superman gone, he wanted to honor what the man stood for. But he never called himself Superman. He never tried to claim the name. He went with Steel. Superboy obviously wasn't the same person. He flat out said, hey, I'm a teenage clone. You know, I have inherited the super concept, quite literally, but, you know, it's like people, you know, they kept calling him Superboy. That was kind of the running gag in those early bits, but, you know, it's a thing. You can watch that video to get much more details on how all that went down. But, yeah, let's just jump to those Batman ones now that I got thinking about that, because that was some good ones too. Those were much more recent videos. Where was those at? Weren't that recent? I think over. Yeah. Okay, yeah, we did the, starting in the Batman R.I.P. miniseries, through his death, the immediate fallout, and his return. Which was all kind of like the whole Death and Reign of the Superman thing, written as one big story. So I kind of rushed through all those as one video. And again, the thing with that video, which, yes, probably for episode number count, if you're following along with the playlist for us or wanting to look at these videos later, this would be episode 68 on the playlist. You know, both of those were interesting series because I was fascinated by how they dealt with the character dying, which the actual death was done in Final Crisis, which was an event going on at the same time. But, like, the fallout and how they brought Bruce back to life and all that was handled, and how, like, similar the lack of Superman in the DC universe was felt by so many people because of how influential he was as a superhero. You know, those are stories that interested me, but I've never really been interested in the day-to-day, you know, month-to-month solo books for Superman and Batman, because, you know, this is something, again, I'm trying not to get too critical or going too long of a divergence here, but as characters, they're very interesting. Like, I enjoy Superman and Batman movies. I enjoy them in team settings, but just the idea of, like, month-to-month long stories just over and over again, the characters never really appealed to me on that level. You know, I'm a huge fan of Spider-Man as a solo hero. You know, he's fun in some team books, too. You know, Spider-Man team-ups are an iconic part of the thing here. But, you know, like, Batman just, it's like, okay, look, the guy's just this, you know, oh, Batman always wins thing, but, and it's cute and all in, as I said, like, team books or Once in a Blue Moon with the big events, seeing him being a linchpin of saving the universe, but it's like, I don't want to see Batman just be that dominant every single month. Like, you know, it's like, dude, if he's such this epic level ass kicker, I mean, as many years as he's been doing it, like, why is there anybody, like, committing crimes in Gotham? It's like, I'm sorry, but after, like, the third time Batman beat the piss out of me, I don't care how dedicated I am to being a criminal. Look, I'm moving to LA. Like, I'm just like, look, bro, I'm sick of you knocking teeth out of my skull and locking me up in a creepy, insane asylum. I'm going to another coast. Like, I'm out of here. You can have Gotham. I don't need it. You know, it's like, how, you know, somebody like Joker, I can kind of understand. A well-written Joker is just completely detached from reality, has a bit of an obsessive personality. You can kind of see why he won't give up trying to one-up Batman once and for all. But, like, guys like your Clayface, your Two-Face, your Riddler, Penguin, like, why do they insist on staying in Gotham when Batman's just that much of just an asshole to deal with? I'm not even being cute. Like, that's one of the running gags in the, you know, main continuity there is, like, even, you know, like Nightwing and, like, Batgirl and stuff, there's times where they just look at Bruce Wayne and go, dude, I can't deal with you right now. Like, I have to get away from you for a couple weeks and decompress. Like, you're crazy, man. But I don't know. It's just, it's a thing. I'm very iffy on Batman. It's like Superman's the same thing. Superman's become such a, just this god level, you know, hero. Like, his powers are just so upper tier. It's very hard for me to suspend my disbelief and think the average putz is going to beat him. It's like the whole kryptonite thing. Just, look, I don't care if Metallo's got a kryptonite heart. I don't care if you got a guy that's made completely out of kryptonite. Like, we have literally seen people do everything they can do with kryptonite as this alleged ultimate weakness of Superman, and it never kills him. It never works. They overused the kryptonite concept. There's a reason why, right after the Crisis, one of the things John Byrne wanted to do with the Man of Steel miniseries, serving as the launching point of the new post-Crisis Superman mythos, was downplay kryptonite and not use it for a while to erase that memory of those stories, especially ones in like the 70s and 60s, where it was like every other issue of Superman, somebody was throwing kryptonite at him, and it's like, dude, we know it's not going to work. It didn't work last time. It didn't work the last 20 times. It's like, ugh. Ugh. You ruined what was a good one-off, use it, once a decade at most concept. They overused the gimmick. But we are definitely getting off track here. If you look around, starting with episode 60 up through, I did 5 of them last summer for the Shark Week, which is, of course, one of Discovery Channel's longest running special programming blocks, and as such, one of the oldest ones on cable, period. And as a huge shark enthusiast for pretty much my entire life, I mean, like, I remember in elementary school going to the library and checking out books on sharks. They've just always fascinated me. But yeah, I did 5 episodes centering around sharks. I reviewed some Peter Benchley novels. Well, okay, no, it's going to be 4, because one of them was The Beast, which is not a shark, it's a giant squid. But it was a Peter Benchley thing, it was a good tie-in. But, I did the White Shark novel, I did the Jaws novel, I did the Jaws films, and then I did a video on Shark Week in particular. That starts with episode 60. That was a very good series. Like, I enjoyed doing those. It felt really good to just let my shark fanboy out. And specifically having those 2 Jaws videos back to back and kind of showing you how the original novel, what Peter Benchley did, and what Hollywood did with his concept, both in the film directly based off it and all the sequels that were Hollywood originals. So it was a good thing. Let me see what else we've got here. Oh yeah, I did do, if you go to episode 55, I mentioned this earlier, I did do a video on the, I think I said Donkey Kong versus Nintendo earlier, that was incorrect. It was Universal versus Nintendo due to the existence of Donkey Kong, and Universal's alleging that it was a blatant attempt to make a King Kong video game without getting the license from Universal, an attempt to skirt around licensing rights, and it was a whole rigmarole. Definitely watch that video. Go ahead if you want. The original Who Owns Kong video is like episode 3. But if you want, go ahead and jump straight down to 55. Watch that one. It's a good follow-up video that addresses some of the fallout of the King Kong legal matters and how they impacted Donkey Kong, and how Universal almost put Nintendo out of business before they really got started here in America because of Donkey Kong. It was craziness. Let's see. Oh, episode 46. Oh, that was a banner one. Oh, definitely. Episode 46, which is my discussion on the 90s paranormal documentary style show Sightings. This was a very good video because, again, it's something, this was my childhood. The supernatural was is my other big lifelong thing I love to study and look at. And to me, Sightings is the best way television has ever, on a week-to-week basis, dealt with investigating into the supernatural. Like, they covered all of it. Ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, psychic powers. They did some stuff on reincarnation and how hypnosis could allegedly cause past life regression. It's I don't know currently, I would have to look, but I know as of a couple months ago, it was my highest viewed rambling. And that is excellent. Like, I love that. A lot of people tuned into that video. I got some positive feedback on it. You know, people loved that old show. It was a big thing for that time period for a lot of people, and it was one of those videos that was very natural for me. I was like, hey, I can't believe I haven't talked about this yet. And it just, once I started talking about it, it all flowed. I think the only notes I had on that one, I usually have a screen of some notes for what I talk about. But because so much of that was the personal impact on the show to me, I think the only notes I had was the actual like airing dates and the episode count. You know, the hard math stuff. But yeah, that is a banner one. That's 46. So, you know. Let's see, what are some other good ones? I've done 2 years of Halloween videos. Let me go ahead and see, kind of look at that. We did episode 15, in which I discussed Edgar Allan Poe and the many great horror-themed Edgar Allan Poe stories. I actually feel like I kind of need to do a follow-up because since I was focusing on his horror stories and his creepy suspense stories, I did overlook the detective stories he did that did predate Sherlock Holmes. And in fact, Sir Conan Doyle, when he created Sherlock Holmes, did admit to having read the Poe stories, and and having admitted that the way Poe wrote his detective, Sir Conan Doyle kept that in mind when he wrote Holmes. As in, he was like, look, Poe did some really good things with this, but I want to make sure I'm not copying him too closely. I'm not, just trying to follow his lead. I want to take what he did and put my own twist on it. So, but yeah, I do need to do a follow-up video on that, and focusing on the detective stories and some of the other non-horror stories he did. Like, there's a good psychological one called The Gold Bug that's not straight horror, but that was episode 15. That was a good one for that year. I did a couple months of that because I did like 7 episodes that first time through. So that was a thing. We also discussed Charles Band and Full Moon Productions, which is some excellent lower budget horror movies. The main focus of it's the Puppet Master franchise. That's episode 19. I highly recommend that episode. If you are not familiar with Full Moon Productions, Charles Band, and all of the crazy, kooky, spooky, scary stuff he does under that banner, then check that video out. It is highly recommended. Let's see, what are some other good ones? Woo! Trying to bounce up and down my list here because I don't want to just like talk about everything. Let's look at some of my more recent videos here as we're. But yeah, we also did this past year. We did some great ones. I did an episode on Tales from the Crypt, the TV series, which was based off an old comic book anthology series. Again, that was a very highly viewed video. A lot of people are still very much into Tales from the Crypt. You can watch it on some streaming services. There's a complete series DVD box set out. It's very well done. It was a great show. I talked about the basic background of it. Went through and kind of jogged my memory and reminisced about iconic episodes. I mean, I'm talking about stuff that I have not seen in probably 20 years, and I still can remember scenes in my head from them. And it's not like I watched them 100 times either. I saw those episodes maybe 2-3 times at most, and it burned into my memory because the show was that well done. So that was a good one from that year. We did that was episode 74. Episode 73 was a good one, which is we went through the House of the Dead video games, which for my money, personally, I prefer House of the Dead to the Resident Evil games. They get a lot of comparisons. They started up within a couple years of each other. They are from competing companies. House of the Dead is done by Sega. Resident Evil is done by Capcom. And I do a lot of talking about Capcom. I've done on this. We've mentioned Capcom in a couple episodes of Generation eXpletive. I'm going to have to double check on when one of those episodes comes out. It may have aired by the time of this episode. It may be airing a couple weeks later. But definitely check that out. But yes, there's a lot of meat to Capcom. I've done videos on the Street Fighter and Mega Man franchises, which are from Capcom. But House of the Dead is a Sega product. It is a Sega franchise. And it is a great one. So I definitely recommend people watch that video as I discuss the various House of the Dead games. There are not as many as Resident Evil, which may be part of why I like that series more, is Sega doesn't go to that well too often. They wait till they have some good ideas. But let's see, what else have I done? Yes, I started off this past year with episode 84, where I did my New Year's special, which involved discussing how, personally for me, 2020 was not that bad a year. A lot of people those last couple months of the year were, throwing out their memes and just, oh God, it was such a horrible year. Like, everything that could go wrong did. It was crazy. It was insane. Just everybody was miserable. And I'm sitting here going, actually, not really. My 2020 was nowhere near the worst year of my life. I felt like it really addressed what the Friday Ramblings is all about, which is that there is always an ability to look on the positive side of things. As I say a lot with the Friday Ramblings is, we'll admit when stuff is done bad, but we will still try to find that silver lining. As I say, it's constructive criticism. We don't just want to tear anything down because, I kind of plod along as a slow-paced novelist. I make these videos. I team up with Jaime to do the Gen X podcast. I do my solo game streams. I'm a creator, and I know how, it's very easy to just trash on creators, and it's not fair because very few people make something with the intent to just make something for the sake of making something. And those that do are pretty easy to spot as lazy and just focused about the sale. And it's like, no. I pick my topics because these are things that I can find something good to say about. And when I give criticism, it tends to be of that, constructive criticism. That's the phrase we like to use here. Constructive criticism. It's like, this scene didn't really work very well. I understand what the director was going for, or the writer, or the artist, But it didn't quite pay off the way it did. Fortunately, it didn't ruin the whole experience. But we're going to admit, there's some wrinkles in the fabric. Because that's what I think makes Friday Ramblings different from a lot of stuff out on the internet, is we're not blindly kissing ass to anything. Except maybe that Calvin and Hobbes episode I did. That one I did a lot of praising of Bill Watterson and his iconic comic book series. But I wasn't doing it to kiss ass. I did it because it honestly was very important in my life. I still have the book collections. I showed them off in that video. And every once in a blue moon, I'll go and thumb through in one of them. It's still good reading. But yeah, that was a lot of praise in that one. Very, very little, if any, criticism in that one. But that's the thing is, there's videos where people are just blatantly just sucking up, just Disney, Squaresoft, Final Fantasy VII, yes, more. No. Even the stuff I love the most, I'm going to sit there and be realistic about it. Even if it's just as simple as, look, this isn't going to be everybody's thing. You may not like this, but, I did. We don't just horribly trash either. As I've said, if you want to watch people just rip something to shreds and be angry and piss all over somebody's honest attempt to make something that they thought people would enjoy, look, that is all over the internet. There's a lot of just hatred and blind negativity of entertainment on the internet. As I said, there's a reason I don't talk about some movies or some TV shows or some comic books. It just, there's nothing I can do to give a fair review of it. And that's what the Ramblings is about. I try to give a fair review of these things. So, if you have a topic idea and you want to suggest it to me for a future video, feel free to suggest it. I may not pick it because it may be something that I can't give a balanced opinion of. But I will tell you that. I'm going to go ahead and warn you. If you're like, oh, dude, talk about the Suicide Squad movie. No, I'm not. That movie disappointed me on several levels. I have to, that's what I have to do. I have to take deep breaths and just be like, no, we're not going to let it flow. Because it's going to flood. It's just going to be a flood of stinky brown material. If you know what I'm referencing. Maybe why don't you talk more about, this video game? Honestly, I kind of, it's like, well, I kind of have problems being fair and balanced about that because that's one of my favorite all-time video games. So, I may, if the movie, if I can really mentally pace myself, I may do that, but probably not. Because that's just something I've learned as I do these videos. I have done, counting this video, 100 ramblings. That's a lot. That is a big thing. So, frankly, I've learned as I've come along. And that's one of the things I've learned is I have to know what I can be straight with you about. Because that's what makes the Ramblings worth watching. That's what makes me, hopefully, I'm not going to say unique, but hopefully different enough from a lot of review videos that I can kind of stand out. That it's worth watching me talk about this subject instead of somebody else. Because I'm going to keep it grounded in reality. I'm not going to go for too much over-the-top humor. You know, I'll laugh at my own marble mouth occasionally. You know, I may find a little humor in something for a minute or two, but I'm not, you know, going to base a whole video around, oh, I'm going to be goofy and I'm going to make a clown skit out of this. No. I don't care if I do 100 more ramblings. I don't care if I do 500 more ramblings. I'm never going to be a character. I'm going to think about my language because I want these videos to be approachable for as many people as possible. I'm going to choose my topics consciously so that they fit the overlying theme of the show and its ideals, but I'm not going to be a character. I'm not going to try to force humor or convince you I have an opinion that I don't have. I'm not against channels that do that, but that's not what we do, because there are channels that do that. Some of them are great channels. Some of them are not. So, I mean, basically that's your 100th episode. I gave you some recommendations. Honestly, it would make my world if you just watched all previous 99 videos again and then come back and watch this one more time. Yeah, view counts, recommendations. Subscribe if you haven't. That's what's going to make the channel grow. That's what's going to convince me that, you know, I've got a good formula. We can keep going for another 100, 500,000, whatever the number ends up being. But this is what it's all about, folks. At its core, the ramblings is always going to be entertainment related. It's always going to do as much as I can as a human being to talk about something I'm interested in, but still kind of ride that middle line. Not go too far this way, not go too far that way. I want to keep it real. I told you I'm a shark guy. I'm a shark guy. I'm never going to be far from a shark thought. And yes, I still have not found Baby Shark to be annoying. Mostly because I enjoy rewriting the lyrics. It's a wonderful beat. You know, you break it down. The beat is perfect for just whatever lyrics you need. Ramble on, do 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 do. Ramble on, do 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 do. 100 more, do 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 do. Record eps. Watch and like, do 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 do. Leave comments, do 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 do. Shark fingers, do 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 do. Bite, bite, bite. That's what I'm saying. That's your natural silliness. That ain't forced. That wasn't pre-planned. That's who I am. We're going to be back next week. I've got those episodes lined up. I do batch record. I do upload in advance. So if you look at our playlist, technically it does list more than 100 episodes because I have episodes uploaded and scheduled to follow after this one. First this, then those episodes. Because I have gifts for you. Because you watched. You got all the way through the end. So I have a gift for you. Tune in every week, because I'll be here. Check out the other shows on the channel. And by all means, if you really love me, leave a comment telling me that, because, hey, everybody needs to hear that every so often. There's nothing wrong with positive feedback. Don't be afraid of being a little sappy. This has been 100 episodes strong, and we're still going on.